Welcome to the JEMS Report, brought to you by Clarion Events, Fire and Rescue, and the Journal of Emergency Medical Services. My name is Ted Lee, and I'm the editor-in-chief of JEMS Magazine, along with Jeff Frankel, our managing editor. We will be bringing you industry experts and leaders in all things pre-hospital medicine. Today, we're celebrating EMS Week, and the topic of EMS Week today is EMS education. So with this, we have a very special guest, Rick Ellis from the National Association of EMTs, and he is the chair of the Education Committee. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, especially on a great week like this. We get an opportunity to celebrate the things that we do 365 days a year.
Yeah, so why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background and how you ended up on the Education Committee with the National Association of EMTs.
It'll be my pleasure. Like Steve said, introduce me. I'm Rick Ellis. I'm currently a paramedic, and my full-time job is I'm Associate Dean for Health Sciences at Central Georgia Technical College. Prior to that, I was the program chair here. I have been here now for almost about 15 years. My EMS background goes all the way back to, I hate to say this, 1978, when I got interested in being a volunteer firefighter and EMT. And it just progressed from there. Got my paramedic in 1983 and have moved on. In that, I spent 30 years in the military as an Air Force medic, culminating, I guess my pinnacle on that one is I was the Air Force EMS program manager for several years and retired, and now I'm in health science education. So that got me into NAEMT as one of their board of directors and treasurer, or excuse me, secretary, I'm sorry for that, and got appointed to the Education Committee several years ago and became the chair, and it's been a great ride.
Well, thank you for your service. And a lot of times, you know, the military service or the fire and rescue bug usually catches somebody and brings them into EMS. And it looks like you're part of that cadre as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So with your career, you've been in this for a while, and this being the 50th anniversary of EMS Week, what do you see the changes that have gone over in these years, or just reflect a little bit on the importance of EMS Week now that we're at the 50th anniversary?
Well, from what I've seen in my career that started back in 1978, and my medic being in 83, moving forward, I have seen the education grow and abound amongst what the requirements of us in the field. I mean, we have gone from the classic example I have becoming a medic is doing 3 lead EKGs to 12 leads. Our medications have broadened out. We've now gone truly to what used to be called a mobile intensive care unit to really, from what it was now to what it is today, actually is a mobile intensive care unit. We do 4 wheels. We can do now intensive care. We have broadened the horizon. If you look at when I came into EMT, the textbook for EMT was about maybe a ½ inch thick, and now it's several inches thick. The paramedic textbook went from a workbook and a textbook that were probably 2½ inches thick to now volumes of books. And so the knowledge that we have to do our job keeps growing and growing and growing. And one thing that one of my mentors taught me in the military, the only constant in education is change. And I can probably relate that to the only constant in medicine is change. It's always out there. You've got to keep your finger and thumb on the pulse of what's going on. So with that, we have, changing my hat from the paramedic to the NAEMT, we try to keep that going with all of the educational courses that we provide. The plethora that are out there, PHTLS, TECC, AMLS, what we call at the school, the alphabet soup courses, help build upon that foundational knowledge, and in some cases are used in initial education to maintain and keep the skills, since a lot of the courses are research driven. So they're keeping the latest things out there. As you know, textbooks take 4 years to produce. So we're getting more and more of having to maintain with the constant changes that are happening. Classic run right now is tourniquet conversion coming out of the Ukraine war. Keeping tourniquets on for us in the United States isn't one thing for 2 hours, but for them, having to convert them has brought the delay in converting them has brought the need for education forward, and it's now filtering back to the United States, to where we are keeping that on our forefront and constantly changing. So it's a great time to see where we've come from to where we're going, and all of the different shoot off or sprouts that we've had. It's great to see from the 30,000-foot view.
Yeah, in the years of your experience, and with mine too, I mean, I'm graying like many of us in this. You get to see the ebb and flow of the educational piece, and to your point, the changes in as research has been pushed out into the field, as battlefield medicine has been, always closely attuned to EMS in general. To see, oh, well, this is working, this isn't working. Oh, we now have huge case studies from Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, to see, what is actually practical application and what seems to be working. The importance of blood administration now in the United States, is a direct result of that type of case study in a battlefield, and then to see it kind of flourish out in the general population is quite interesting. But with that, the educational piece comes back to, wow, we weren't even talking about that before, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, and the need for refresher type education or current information to be disseminated to the profession.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the refresher is a good term. I like to lean more towards continuing education rather than dusting off the cobwebs off the file cabinet and pulling out that old file and pulling it out to see, make sure it's still good. That is part of it, but you're right. Looking in, like you mentioned, with the research, keeping it continuing. Any EMS personnel who are not involved in continuing education and think that it's never going to change, unfortunately, are going to get probably hit in the face with a large baseball bat, I'll call it, because it's going to be a rude awakening moment if you're not keeping your finger on that pulse of what's changing and where it's going. Right. So those aspects, definitely, I can't say enough for the need for that.
Well, one thing about EMS providers, we hate things that stay the same and we hate things that change. So exactly. It is a common thing, but there is some, when you're out in the field and you're working, understanding what you're doing and comfort in that this is the right thing and this is the right procedure for the individual. There is a certain, comfort type towards that. But, research and development, new techniques, new medications that are constantly coming out, new procedures that are coming out for sure. Make it an interesting time for a lot of people, especially people who have been in the profession for a while and said, we didn't need to know this before, and now we do need to know this. So it definitely keeps everybody on their toes.
Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned whole blood. We can talk about POCUS, ultrasounds now entering out into the field. Community paramedicine is taking off. So all of those aspects and avenues that we have within EMS, it's a great time to have that capability to branch whichever way you do. I mean, part of the time that I do to keep my fingers in it right now, I also serve as a tactical medic for our local SWAT team. So seeing all this trauma innovation and things and new things that are coming out, it's actually very, very exciting.
So the public probably doesn't, really know everything that goes into EMS education. They see the providers out there. They see them going through academies, or they go through institutions, educational institutions. Sometimes they're like regional council programs. So, how do they know that, the quality from one versus the other is the same or consistent?
Well, one of the things that works with that is, especially I can speak for paramedicine, which would be the Committee on Accreditation of EMS Educational Programs. Right now, their focus primarily is making sure that quality education is provided open for students for paramedicine, and they're getting ready to move based upon national documents to having voluntary advanced EMT. So the COA EMSP, as we call them, lay out the foundations based upon the CAHEP, the Committee on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs. So all those standards lay out to kind of make the field so that when you know someone is graduated from a CAHEP accredited program, that they have met certain standard requirements to make sure that there's quality education out there. And the COA and the CAHEP are also not only just for your quality education, it's to make sure that the students get into a program that they're going to be able to finish and have some good results with.
So with that being for initial education, COAMPS and COA, what about continuing education? Is there an agency that covers that?
Yes, actually, it's CAPC, the Committee on Accreditation, and I'd have to their acronym to make sure on that, because I was with them a long time ago when they were called something entirely different. Committee on Accreditation, pre-hospital continuing education. Yeah, they are the ones that go in and make sure that the continuing ed side of the house meets standards, that things are done appropriately, that the documentation is available, to make sure that, once again, across the board, that it meets state requirements and meets national registry, so that you can maintain your continuing education, to maintain that currency.
And does the National Association of EMTs, they work for, I assume, and I, as a member, I know, but for the audience, you guys work very closely with both organizations to ensure that, things are on board and current and relevant, so that, no one agency gets kind of out of touch.
Correct. Yeah, actually, NAEMT has representatives on both organizations, and that I happen to be one of their representatives for the COA in there. And I can tell you, the group is very passionate about ensuring quality education is there. I can't speak on CAPC, but I know that the representatives that are there, it's the same thing. So they're keeping in their fingers all the way throughout for NAEMT to make sure that our providers are the providers that our callers of 911 want.
So, as a national organization, being, integral in the working aspect of the educational process, and this being the focus of the day, education for National EMS Week, where do you see us going as a profession, and how does the public relate to kind of where we're going?
I see the profession just bounding and expanding, like I said earlier, from what I've seen when I started to where we are now. It's continually growing. There are new avenues being found for EMS providers, new places that we go. Paramedics are now in emergency departments. They're in other areas that when I first came in would never even be thought of place-wise. So the public's perception, the drive to call everybody paramedics is one of the moves that's out there, because that's a phrase that everybody understands as a generic term for EMS providers. That you can thank TV shows for that. I mean, a lot of us know that a lot of us older people understand the show Emergency. That made paramedicine and EMS a household term. So we've got some of that out there now with Chicago Fire and a few other programs that are out there. They're keeping it in the forefront for them. But the more that we can do to make sure those programs are technically accurate, the better off we're going to be, because the perception is reality. So what they see on TV, they perceive as being reality, is the way it is. And then sometimes that's not always the case. But by doing and making sure it's as technically accurate as possible, we're getting that out there so that they understand when they dial 911 what they're going to get as a response.
Right. Well, and even that has changed, throughout the years. And, early on in the development of the 911 system, it was pretty much no matter what your emergency is, dial 911 and someone will be there to help you. And the anticipation was always that they will show up and then they will take you to the hospital. But even today, we're seeing that that's not always the case, or even the most appropriate form of healthcare for them. And educating the public on the capabilities and the resources of the local emergency medical service is key.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, when we teach our medics here, we don't harp on it, but we try to say that, just because you're dealing with people, their emergency is not the only thing. It's an educational opportunity. Every call is an educational opportunity, and you've got to handle it the right way to broaden your patient's perspective on what they do. Well, I take high blood pressure medication, but I only take it when I get a headache. No. There's educational opportunity to keep you out of the hospital and prevent further calls. These are things that we need to do. So you're right. I mean, in that aspect, the education is a part of every EMS provider, not only receiving, but providing education based upon their knowledge.
Well, and as we continue to develop, that's going to be, critical for the relationship between the community and the EMS provider. If the expectation is, well, you're going to take me to the hospital, and we're like, yes, but you'd be better suited to go to a different location, or you'd be better suited to stay at home and then have a telehealth visit, or something that would be more appropriate for the situation. And I think that's one of the things for me that's most exciting about the current trends in emergency services, is that, to your point earlier, it's expanding in so many different ways. And, again, going back to the old days of, we talked about things saying we could do this, and now we're starting to see things that we had mentioned before that we could be doing, that we are doing. And it all goes back to, the expanse of education and research, and then, of course, community resources that are there, and then the education of the community.
Agreed. Don't forget the increases in technology that are out there now. Things are getting smaller and much more portable and easier to use in the field.
Yes, so. I remember Life Pack 5s, very heavy, and you had two pieces that you had to carry in and decide which one was which. And now the point of care testing is not much bigger than your phone. The ultrasound devices are not much bigger than a wallet. It's quite amazing to see the technology as it comes out.
Exactly. Yeah, my first defibrillator was a Life Pack 4. You didn't run with it because you couldn't stop. It was that big.
So, and then, advances in technology with telehealth and telemedicine, of course, have expanded the capabilities of what a pre-hospital provider can do. And then, getting back to the educational piece, for, those providers who went to school 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that wasn't even on the radar. It wasn't even something that they even thought about doing, let alone had the technology to do. So the need for continuing education, or updating or expanding the general knowledge becomes key as well.
I agree, and that's where that differentiating between refresher training and continuing education, getting rid of the moniker. Unfortunately, some people think refresher training, just pull off those lesson plans every 2 years to go through the same material that you've gone through, and we've done what we needed. But you're right, based upon technology and everything, we need to push the box, make the box bigger for us in EMS, so that we can include all of those things. So you're like whole blood, POCUS, ventilators, you name it, it's out there now.
Yeah, the days of ventilators being on wheels and taking two people to push around a hospital, and now it's small enough for one person to carry and have the same functionality, really opens up things for what medicine can do. So that's pretty interesting as well.
Agreed.
So getting back to EMS week, you've seen quite a few EMS weeks. What does EMS week mean for you?
I see it as an opportunity for us to celebrate the things that we have done over the year that aren't counted for the other weeks, the other 51 weeks that are there. It's an opportunity for us to, like we mentioned earlier, to let the public know what we are, who we are, what we do. we expound on that. It should be something we do 52 weeks a year. We should be with social media out there with a weekly podcast, something similar to this that's going on that we are seeing out there now that are presenting, but something more to the public that they know what our capabilities are. And like you said earlier, when you dial 911, the old phrase, you call, we haul, that's all, doesn't exist anymore. There are different avenues, and they need to be knowledgeable of what those are and given the opportunity. I mean, with the mental health crisis that we have going on and the various models that we are using to meet those needs, it's all dealing with publicity now. So, and it's a good way to go, I think, for us in EMS week.
Yeah, I do think that, this one, of course, you have awareness days and you have awareness weeks. And of course, it just tries to, bring a sense of, hey, this is important, this is who we are. But to your point, there's 51 weeks other than EMS week. And, we need to promote ourselves every day, 365, because that's when we're out there and that's when we're doing the work, and all the providers that are sacrificing, time at home with families. They don't get into this profession because they're going to make a ton of money. We don't have wonderful schedules all the time that we work. We have to work outside when it's hot, when it's cold, when it's rainy or snowy. But there's a service that individuals, feel and drives them to do this line of work, and to bring this, to the front so that the public knows, and then of course that the providers know that, they are recognized, they are aware of the sacrifices that people put in to be in this line of work. And then we are grateful. Even as an EMS provider, we have called on EMS at times and had needed that help. And, sometimes we're the worst patients to have, but at the same time, we are very thankful for the services that are provided for us. So to your point, it's just, it's not something that is just one day or 1 week. It is a yearly thing, but it's nice to have the recognition of, a week-long aspect to kind of focus on emergency medical services again.
Agreed. Here in our area, right, tomorrow, we're going to have our EMS for Children's picnic / meet and greet a truck. So there'll be an opportunity for all of our ambulance services, fire, police, to get everybody together, since we are EMS as a group, to do all that and to see, once again, another educational opportunity. We're going to celebrate our providers, and at the same time, we're going to give an opportunity for the public to see what we can do.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's the message too, to bring it back to the public that we serve, and let them know, hey, we are here. And, sometimes, making them aware of there's things that are needed in EMS. We need support. We need to be recognized as a critical service for the community, and to give back to that. So wonderful times.
Yes, sir. I 100% agree.
So again, I wanted to thank you for taking time today. I know it's very busy, and of course, for anybody that's in EMS week is a busy week as well, because there's a lot of things that are moving parts that are going on as you do your presentations and stuff like that. But I wanted to thank you again for your service and for taking time today.
My pleasure. It's a great time to speak with you, and to all our listeners out there. Only thing I got to say for those people is stay frosty, and as we use during COVID, semper gumby, stay flexible.
Right. All right. Well, you have a safe day, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You too.